You are sitting there right now, reading these words, and you feel absolutely certain about one thing. You feel certain that you are inside your head. Somewhere behind your eyes, somewhere inside the quiet darkness of your skull, you imagine a little version of yourself watching the world like a movie on a screen. That feeling is so natural, so obvious, that you've probably never questioned it. But Richard Feynman would look at you, smile, and say, "That's a beautiful story. It's just not what's really happening." Let me start with a simple experiment. Hold up your hand in front of your face. Wiggle your fingers. Now ask yourself a dangerous question. Where is that experience happening? You might say, "In my brain, of course." But notice something strange. You don't see your hand inside your head. You see it out there in space, floating in front of you. The color, the shape, the motion, all of it feels like it belongs to the world, not to your skull. Here's the weird part. Physics tells us that nothing from your hand actually reaches your mind. Not the hand, not the color, not the motion. Only tiny packets of energy, photons, bounce off your fingers and fly into your eyes. Those photons trigger electrical signals. Those signals travel through nerves. And somewhere in a dark, silent network of cells, something turns those sparks into a living experience. But Feynman loved to point out the gap. There is a complete break between the physical world and what you feel. On one side, you have atoms, waves, and electrical pulses. On the other side, you have redness, warmth, meaning, and the feeling of being you. And nowhere in the brain can you find a little screen where the movie of reality is playing. So where are you really? Imagine you're wearing a virtual reality headset. Inside the headset, there's no tiny world. There are only pixels lighting up, wires carrying signals, circuits switching on and off. And yet, to you, there's a whole universe. A sky, a floor, a body that feels like your own. The experience doesn't live in the machine. It lives in the interaction between the machine and the information flowing through it. Feynman's quiet challenge was this. What if your mind is not a thing hiding inside your head, but a process stretching across the boundary between your brain and the world? What if you are not located in one place at all, but in the constant conversation between light, matter, memory, and time? Because the moment you realize that, something unsettling happens. You stop feeling like a passenger inside your body and start feeling like a pattern that exists between the universe and itself. And that's where the real mystery of consciousness begins. Let's slow this down and look at what's actually happening when you see the world. Right now, light from your screen is traveling through the air and hitting the back of your eyes. That light doesn't carry pictures. It doesn't carry words. It doesn't carry meaning. It only carries energy at certain wavelengths. Red is just one frequency. Blue is another. That's it. The universe, at the physical level, is completely silent about what anything means. Inside your eye, those waves of energy strike a thin layer of cells called the retina. And here's where the magic, or the trick, begins. The retina doesn't pass along a tiny photograph of the world. It converts light into a pattern of electrical signals, a code, millions of tiny on-off messages racing along your optic nerve. So by the time anything reaches your brain, the world has already vanished. There is no color anymore. There is no shape. There is no screen. There is only a storm of electrical activity. Feynman loved this kind of moment because it exposes a strange truth. Everything you think you directly experience is actually a reconstruction. Your brain is not opening a window to reality. It is building a model of reality in real time, based on fragments of data. Think about that. You have never seen the world as it is. You've only ever seen your brain's best guess. Now here's the part that should make you uncomfortable. If your experience is a model, then where is that model located? You might want to say, in my brain. But when you look around, the world doesn't feel like it's inside your head. The sky feels far away. The floor feels below you. Other people feel out there, in their own space. This is what philosophers call the projection problem. Your brain takes its internal model and throws it outward, like a movie projector casting an image onto a screen. The screen feels like the world itself. The result is that your experience feels external, even though the machinery building it is hidden inside your skull. Feynman's style was never to get mystical. He would say, "Don't dress this up with fancy words, just follow the process. Energy becomes signals, signals become patterns, patterns become experience. At no point does a little person inside your head step in to watch it all. So who is doing the watching? That question leads to an infinite loop. If there's a watcher inside your head, then who's watching that watcher? And who's watching the one watching the watcher? You get an endless stack of imaginary observers. The only way out is radical. Maybe there is no inner observer at all. Maybe you are not a thing sitting somewhere. Maybe you are the activity itself, the seeing, the hearing, the feeling, the constant flow of patterns being built and rebuilt every fraction of a second. And if that's true, then your mind is not a place. It's an event. And in the next section, we're going to push this even further, because now we have to ask what happens when the world changes, but you stay the same. Let's try a simple experiment. Don't move. Just stare at one spot in front of you for 10 seconds. While you do that, your eyes are constantly jumping in tiny, invisible movements called saccades. They never truly hold still. The image on your retina is always shifting, always changing. And yet, what do you experience? A perfectly stable world. This alone should bother you. Your brain is not reporting what your eyes see moment by moment. It is correcting it, smoothing it, editing it. It throws away most of the chaos and hands you a clean, steady version of reality. You live inside a highlight reel, not the raw footage. Feynman used to point out something simple but devastating. The brain is a physical system obeying the same laws as everything else. Neurons fire, chemicals move, electricity flows. There's no special reality detector inside your head, just machinery following physics. So how does that machinery produce a world that feels continuous, solid, and out there? The answer is prediction. Your brain is not waiting for the world to arrive. It is constantly guessing what will happen next, and then checking those guesses against the signals coming in from your senses. When the guess is good, you don't notice anything. When the guess is wrong, you feel surprise. This is why you don't see your own nose most of the time. The data is there, right in front of your eyes, but your brain predicts it so perfectly that it erases it from your experience. Now scale this up. Your entire reality may be a prediction that's being quietly corrected thousands of times per second. You think you are seeing a chair, but what your brain is actually doing is running a chair model in the background. It expects certain edges, certain colors, a certain weight. When you touch it, the prediction gets confirmed. When something doesn't match, like the chair breaking, the model updates. Here's the uncomfortable part. If perception is prediction, then the world you experience is not the world itself. It's the best story your brain can tell about the world, given limited information and a lot of past experience. Feynman would say, nature doesn't care about your story. Nature just follows rules. The brain is trying to reverse engineer those rules on the fly, in real time, just to keep you alive. Now think about other people. When you look at someone's face, you don't see muscles and photons. You see a person. You see intentions, emotions, a mind. But all of that is also a model your brain is building. You don't directly experience their consciousness any more than you directly experience the real world. You experience your brain's version of both. So where does that leave you? Standing in the middle of a universe of models, predictions, and invisible processes, while feeling like you're at the center of something solid and certain. And here's the twist. If your brain is constantly predicting you too, your body, your thoughts, your next move, then the self you feel might also be part of the model, not the controller, but another prediction, not the author of the story, just another character inside it. In the next section, we're going to collide this idea with something even more dangerous, free will. Because if you are a process, not a thing, we have to ask a brutal question. Are you really choosing anything at all? Let's talk about a moment you know well. You reach for a glass of water. It feels simple, obvious. You decided. You moved. End of story. But here's what the experiments say. Neuroscientists can place electrodes on your scalp and watch your brain prepare the movement before you are aware of deciding to move. A measurable signal, called the readiness potential, rises in your brain hundreds of milliseconds before the thought, "I will grab the glass," appears in your mind. Think about that. Your brain starts the action, and only after that, your consciousness is informed. It's like a news reporter arriving at the scene of an event and saying, "Breaking news. This just happened, even though it already happened before they got there. So where does that put you? Feynman loved tearing down comfortable ideas. He would say, if you think you understand something, try to explain it without using the word itself. Try to explain choice without saying, I chose. You quickly realize you're pointing to processes, not a controller. Signals travel, neurons fire, patterns compete, one wins, a movement happens, and then a story appears in your mind. I decided to do that. But maybe that story is being written after the fact. Now, this doesn't mean you're a robot in the way movies show robots. There is no little demon in your head pulling levers. The system is far more strange than that. You are the system. Your memories, your habits, your fears, your chemistry, your past experiences. All of it is shaping the probabilities of what you will do next. The decision is the moment one path becomes stronger than all the others. Here's where it gets truly weird. If you could rewind the universe to the exact same state, same atoms, same brain, same memories, would you make a different choice? Physics gives a cold answer. If the rules are the same and the starting point is the same, the outcome should be the same. That means the feeling of I could have done otherwise might be an illusion created by not being able to see the full chain of causes. But now take a breath, because this is not where the story ends. Even if your choices emerge from physics, that doesn't make them meaningless. A hurricane follows physical laws too, but it still reshapes coastlines. A star follows equations, but it still lights up a galaxy. Your thoughts and actions are part of the causal fabric of the universe. They are not outside it, they are it. So maybe free will is not about being magically independent of physics. Maybe it's about being a process that can reflect on itself. A piece of the universe that can look at its own rules and say, this is how I work. And that brings us to the most dangerous idea of all. If your mind is not a thing, but a process, and if the self is not a controller, but a model, then the question is no longer, who am I? The question becomes, what is experiencing this at all? So let's take the question seriously. If the self is not a little person inside your head, if your choices rise out of physical processes, then what is actually having the experience? Look around you right now. You don't see photons, you see color. You don't feel pressure waves, you hear sound. Your brain is not showing you reality. It is showing you a model of reality, a carefully edited, simplified, survival-focused version of what's out there. Think of it like a dashboard in a car. The engine is doing something wildly complex. Pistons are firing, fuel is exploding, metal is moving at thousands of revolutions per minute. But you don't see any of that. You see a speedometer, a fuel gauge, a warning light. Consciousness might be the dashboard of the brain. It's not the machinery, it's the display. And here's the strange part. The display includes a symbol labeled me. Your sense of being a self may be just another gauge on the dashboard, a useful interface that helps the system predict, plan, and survive. Feynman once said, nature uses only the longest threads to weave her patterns, so that each small piece of her fabric reveals the organization of the entire tapestry. If that's true, then your mind is not something separate from the universe. It's a tiny piece of the universe modeling itself from the inside. Now let's push this one step further. When you close your eyes and imagine a red apple, where is that apple? It's not in the world. It's not in your hand. And if you open your skull, you won't find a tiny red fruit sitting inside your brain. What exists instead is a pattern of electrical activity, a dance of neurons that corresponds to the experience of apple. So the apple you experience is not a thing, it's an event. And if that's true for apples, why wouldn't it be true for you? Maybe you are not an object. Maybe you are something more like a flame. A flame has a shape. A flame has a position. A flame can grow and shrink. But if you try to grab it, there's nothing solid there. It only exists as long as the process continues. Fuel, oxygen, heat, motion. In the same way, the you feel might be a pattern that only exists as long as the brain keeps running. Here's the quiet, unsettling beauty of that idea. If you are a process, not a thing, then you are not trapped inside your head. You are a relationship between the world and the brain. Light hits your eyes, sound hits your ears, signals move, patterns form, and out of that interaction, experience appears. So maybe your mind doesn't live in your skull. Maybe it lives at the boundary where the universe meets itself. And now we've arrived at the final question, the one Feynman loved more than any answer. If the universe can produce a process that feels like being, what does that say about the universe itself? That's where everything comes together. That's where everything comes together. Type 6, when you're ready for the final section. 6. All right. Final section 6. This is the landing. The part that makes people sit back, silent. So let's finish the circle. We started with a simple idea. Maybe your mind isn't in your brain the way a coin is in a box. Maybe it's something more subtle, more strange, more beautiful. Now think about what we've uncovered. The universe is made of particles and fields. Those fields form atoms. Atoms form molecules. Molecules form cells. Cells form brains. And somehow, when matter reaches a certain level of complexity, the universe doesn't just exist anymore. It begins to experience itself. Feynman loved pointing out that the same rules that govern the stars also govern your thoughts. The same electromagnetic force that holds galaxies together is shaping the signals moving through your neurons right now. There's no clean line between out there and in here. It's all one continuous fabric, folded into different patterns. So maybe consciousness isn't a mysterious ghost floating inside the machine. Maybe it's what the machine feels like from the inside. Think about a whirlpool in a river. You can point to it, you can name it, you can watch it form and fade. But the whirlpool isn't a thing you can pick up. It's a pattern in the flow of water. You might be something like that. Not a solid object hiding behind your eyes, but a stable pattern in the flow of energy and information moving through the universe. And here's the part that quietly changes everything. If that's true, then you are not separate from reality. You are one of the ways reality is looking at itself. When you stare at the night sky, it's not just a human looking at the universe. It's the universe, arranged into a human, looking back at its own reflection. Now suddenly the question, where does consciousness exist, feels almost backwards. It doesn't exist somewhere like a book on a shelf. It exists whenever the right relationships come together. Brain, body, world, and time, locked into a single moving pattern. And that means something quietly powerful. Your thoughts are not just private sparks inside your head. They are physical events in the universe, ripples in the same cosmic ocean that formed stars, galaxies, and light itself. So when you ask, who am I? You're not just asking a biological question. You're asking a cosmic one. You are a moment where the universe stops being silent and starts talking to itself. And maybe that's the real reveal. Not that your mind isn't in your brain, but that your brain is one of the places where the universe learned how to be aware. So the next time you feel small, remember this. You are not a spectator in reality. You are part of the process that makes reality real. And that, in the deepest, strangest, most Feynman-approved way possible, means the universe is thinking, right now, through you.